Hello, I'm Tony Vlahos for ExecuNet, and you're watching a special episode of Learnings from Landings. And today I'm speaking with John Fryer. Hello, John. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well, sir. And John is currently Senior Director, Industry Solutions at Stratus Technologies. Previously, he was product marketing director rather, for Oracle. And upon leaving Oracle in around June of 2013, he did some consulting and considered launching a startup with some former colleagues, but in the end decided that being part of a corporate team was best for him. So today we're going to talk to John, discuss his search, and he'll share his experiences and insights with you. I think you're in for a treat. So, John, with that, talk to me a little bit, please, about what was different in the marketplace when you began your search. Was it different than you expected? Was it different from the last time you had embarked on a search? Talk to me about that, please.
Yeah, so first thing I'd say it's a long, long time since I'd had to look for a job. Back in the mid 90s, 96, 97 was the last time I really looked for a job. And obviously my position was different at that time, and the market was very different. I mean, the advent of things like LinkedIn, the internet, and everything hadn't happened. So, when it came to looking this time around, I thought, great, there's a lot of digital tools available to me. It's a lot easier to find what's going on. You're not reliant on either, whatever's printed in magazines, and it was back in the 90s, or more specifically, headhunters. And that in actual fact, well, maybe it'll be easy to find what's going on there, and it won't take me too long to find something. My experience couldn't have been further from the truth.
Mm.
I was completely unprepared, I think, for the experience I was about to go through,
Hmm.
and it was a real eye opener, I think, for me. It certainly made me look at a lot of things in a very different way.
Well, tell me what you felt you were unprepared to do. What in particular really caught you off guard?
So, clearly, I think my initial strategy, which was as I did, back in the 90s, would be to I would rework my resume, get that up to date. I thought I'd done a good job of that, and really, start to apply for some of the jobs that were out there and start to contact people and so on. And I did that, and the first thing I found was um, I'd get no reply back. It
Mm.
was like sending resumes into black holes. Even though I'd write a cover letter, thought my experience was relevant to what these opportunities were. I talked to a number of headhunters, and I'd have a conversation with them. I'd send them a resume. Maybe we'd have a couple of conversations, and then that would go dark again. So clearly, I kind of came to recognize this is not going to be as easy or as simple as it was in the past, and that maybe I ought to start looking at and contacting some of the people who I'd known throughout my industry experience.
Mhm. Talk to me, John, about some of the strategies you employed as you moved forward in your search, and if you could distinguish the ones that were highly effective from the ones that really didn't seem to move the needle too much for you. What were those?
So, I mean, it really just looking online, looking at various job boards and so on, applying for jobs from that was ultimately, a complete dead end.
Mm.
I probably got one or two first interviews. I talked to people. Then you come to find out, what's written on the job request doesn't always or necessarily reflect what a company's actually looking for when you actually talk to a live person. So I really started to, frankly, having gone to one or two events such as ExecuNet puts on, I came to realize that using the network and building the network that I had was probably the way that was going to yield me some good results. So that's what I started doing. I started making extensive use of networking, going back to people maybe I hadn't talked to in 5 or 10 years. One of the interesting things about the networking experience is you never know who is going to help you.
Mhm.
All right. There were some people who I thought, I can count on them to really help me out, maybe give me some introductions, think about what I'm going to do. really weren't very helpful at all. And people I would meet, just along the way as contacts of contacts, let's say, turned out to be extremely helpful in this search. So, the real lesson I got from that is expanding your network as much as possible is a way that can lead you into paths that you don't know where they're going to end, and you don't know where that opportunity is going to come from. But in all probability, as it actually turned out in my case, it was through my network that I actually landed up where I am today.
That was very well said. So there's a reason why they call it the job search process, not the job search event. But if you could isolate for me a pivotal moment where you either met someone or did something that seemed to make all the difference, or at least you felt you had turned that corner, what would that be?
Yeah, I think, the thing that really sort of did it for me was I think I came to a number of the ExecuNet events, the ones that are, run monthly, certainly the ones in the Boston area. And I think the things that did it for me were recognizing, one, that there are actually a lot of jobs out there that aren't posted, particularly at senior levels. Companies don't necessarily want to disclose what they're looking for. They don't necessarily know what they're looking for, but they're looking for good people who can fit not just functionally into their organization, but I think culturally into their organization as well. And the second thing was the structure of my resume. It was probably a fairly traditional resume. It stretched over, a number of pages. Uh, and the real revelation I got from some of the ExecuNet events was, if you don't make an impact in that sort of first paragraph, all right, if people can't grasp what you're about and what you can do, your probability of getting past that is very, very low. And secondly, by using the networking route, you can bypass all the automated engines that will search through resumes, and if you don't have the right keywords in there, you're out instantly. It's that personal touch and that personal introduction that's going to get you the opportunity.
Excellent. So, John, you've already shared so much insight with our listeners and viewers today around networking and certainly your resume and sort of the real detail that escapes many of us when it comes to crafting that type of collateral. Is there anything else that you could share by way of advice for those who are watching, who are in search or soon might be, that could make all the difference for them?
Yeah, so I think the one thing I would say, and maybe this is me, but I think from talking to people, it applies to a lot of people. It is very, very hard to talk about yourself. All right, and to understand, in a sense, really what sort of motivates you, sort of deep down inside. It's really important, I think, to talk to people and to get help. Again, I'll recall one of the other events that I went to, which was basically a mini sort of interview that ExecuNet does when they start to work with a client, and this was very much a condensed version. But the gentleman who was doing the interviewing for this lady started off and said, "What were you like at 10 years old?" And I'm thinking, what on earth does this have to do with finding a job? But then as you go through the process, what really came out of that is what drives you, what motivates you, what makes you you, and what makes you unique and different starts to form at that age. And there are some very important things that need to be built into a resume at that particular point in time. It was very much a revelation to me, that particular kind of session. So my advice to anybody who is, thinks they're going to be looking for a job, is in that situation now, doesn't know quite what to do, is I would seriously think about going to get some help. I think it's well worth it, because it can help you uncover things that you haven't necessarily thought about. And obviously when you find a job these days, it's all about standing out from the crowd, because the digital mechanism is a great place to find opportunities. The problem is it also enables everybody else to find opportunities. So, whatever you're doing today, it's in a crowded field, and you've got to really figure out What's going to make you the candidate that people are going to say, I want to bring that person in and really talk to them. And making that resume stand out is the way to do it, as well as having that networked and personalized introduction.
Well, that's some terrific advice. I'm not going to keep you. I know you've got to get back to work. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insight and your experiences with me, and by extension with the hundreds of executives viewing and who are going through or will soon be going through similar challenges and discovering new opportunities. So you've been very upbeat, and I would like everyone to take that away from our conversation as well as your very, very solid advice. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, and good luck to anybody else who's out there who's looking or about to start looking for a job.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.